thank you for coming to Hamtramck's 2013 State of the City Address. Witam, mirsevini, merhaba, dobrodošli, laskovo prosimo, shagaton, and welcome everybody. Let me start by recognizing, actually we should just recognize like everybody in the audience, right? But first of all, let's start with our elected officials. We have Council Member Kathy Gordon here with us today. Thank her for coming. City staff, we have DPW Chief Steve Shea, if you want to stand. Community and Economic Director Jason Friedman is here. And I think that's all we've got in terms of city personnel. I also want to recognize Katrina Stackpool, former Mayor Pro Tem extraordinaire, and her husband Tom, active in the Block Club. I want to recognize Ms. Yvonne Myrick, who, I don't know, hasn't she been involved in over the years? Long-standing member of the library board and the school board, and we thank you so much for coming out today. Titus Walters, also president of the school board, happy to see you here. Greg Kowalski, chair of the Hamtramck Historical Commission. You'll be hearing a lot more about its work. Arif Huskic, former, I think, chair of the South End Block Club and prominent member of the Hamtramck Common Word Alliance interfaith group. Any other commissions? Normally I would call out all the commissions, but I don't see any other commission members. Anyway, we'll be talking about that. But all of you, I know from many years of activity in the city, I'm grateful for your help, grateful for your being here, and for your continuing to take an interest in what happens here. It's really, the folks in the community who keep things running and who keep the city going. We also have a member I'd like to acknowledge the retirement of City Clerk Marie Konjerski this year. And if there are any other present or former member or employees of the city of Hamtramck, if you would stand. And that means you, Andrea. Last year, when we were here, we mourned the passing of a dear friend and dedicated city employee, Deb Novinsky. And recently, we were all shocked at the loss of her husband, Carl, who served the city so devotedly, even in retirement. They both made our work in City Hall run a little more smoothly, and our days in City Hall pass a little more pleasantly. And their devotion to and joy in each other was an inspiration and a model of what a loving marriage can be. So we feel their loss deeply. We don't have our school board, our superintendent here, but as I've said, we do have members of our school board here, and I'd like to mention the members. Again, Titus Walters and Ms. Yvonne Myrick. I want to mention some of our other commissions, even though they may not all be represented here. Our Beautification Commission, our Assessors Board of Review, our Downtown Development Authority, Economic Development Corporation, our Historical Commission, of course, Housing Commission, the Human Relations Commission, our Library Board, and Plan Commission, Recycling Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. And, of course, we're happy to be here again and experience the hospitality of the library and the library staff. I'd like to thank the director, Tamara Sahatska, and our volunteer AV Whiz, Greg Kirshner, and, of course, Greg Majaj and all the rest of the library staff who are always ready to help the city and help with our events. So this is the 8th time that I'm addressing you like this, to review what we've been through together in the past year, to give you an idea of what's ahead of us as a city, as a community, and goodness knows we've been through a lot together. We've worked and we've played. We've struggled and we've celebrated. We've argued with each other and we've broken bread together. That is what makes Hamtramck more than a collection of houses or a grid of streets, or as the lingo from Lansing goes these days, a provider of services. That is what connects these tightly packed houses into a community, that joins these narrow streets into neighborhoods, that makes us want to connect with each other and serve our neighbor. That is what makes this place our home. A home we share, for richer, for poorer, for better and for worse. We're joined to this place and to each other. And we've certainly had our worries about this place in the last year. The story of our financial troubles dominated the public narrative about Hamtramck. It was a story told over and over again, mostly superficially or sensationally. Like many Michigan cities, especially those built on a proud manufacturing history like ours, Hamtramck struggled to balance its budget in the face of a diminished tax base, ever-rising costs, escalating infrastructure needs, and the systematic and purposeful erosion of state funding to local governments. This perfect storm for cities has been discussed and theorized from many perspectives. And storm might be a misnomer, because rather than a natural occurrence, this is not unlike the volatile weather caused by global warming. Man-made, predictable, and reversible by responsible public policy aggressively enacted at the highest levels. This has not happened, despite fine words from our state leaders. And so we're likely to see more local governments sinking, clinging to the slippery lifeline of emergency management, which can choke as easily as it rescues. We should know this better than most. On July 1, Kathy Square was appointed Hamtramck's emergency manager. Her 45-day report is due later this month. What the report will say, or what it will propose for Hamtramck going forward, I can't say. But I do know another narrative about Hamtramck. It's a story told in the hard work of our employees under most difficult circumstances. It's a story told in the careful consideration of issues and the organization of projects by our city commissions, committees, and volunteers. It's a story told by the long hours put in by our business owners who make our city a fun place to shop, enjoy a meal or a drink, and get things done. It's a story told by the daily efforts of our residents and neighbors to make our city more beautiful, more welcoming, more viable, and more alive. This is the story that we write about our city and our lives here. We are the characters, and sometimes I do mean characters, and we are the creators. So let me tell you the story here of some of the work that's been going on in Hamtramck City Hall, beginning with our police department. The significance of this department to Hamtramck security is understood by everyone in our city. Although high-profile crimes occasionally make the news, like one we just had last week, statistics show that our crime rate has actually gone down, even in these trying times. The department is becoming more streamlined and efficient, as evidenced by the long overdue reorganization of the property and evidence room. If you were ever in there, you know what I'm talking about. Partnerships have been cultivated with the Drug Enforcement Administration, the FBI, the U.S. Marshal Service, on task forces that pay substantial dividends in fighting crime. The priority given to community policing has meant increased community patrols, new and revitalized block hubs, and a doubling of our police reserves. The department has looked for proactive ways to address specific problem areas in an effort to diffuse likely hotspots. And some of our officers have been recognized. I'd like to mention them. Prima Brennan and Richard Dobeck received Officer and Reserve Officer of the Year awards. Other officers received unit citations for apprehending an armed dangerous felon who attempted to barricade himself in his home. 8 officers received unit citations for apprehending 5 suspects in a stolen vehicle. 14 officers received unit citations for resolving a barricaded situation in the Hamtramck housing complex. And Sergeant Mishak, Lieutenant Mathias, Investigator Collins, Detective Subulkowski, Officer K, all retired this year. And several new officers moved on to other departments, including Sergeant Nolan. So I just wanted to make sure that they were recognized and their names and their work was acknowledged. Equally close to Hamtramck's heart is our fire department. In October 2012, the City of Hamtramck's application for a SAFER grant, Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response through the Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency was successful. The grant reimburses the total cost of 12 firefighters through October 2014. Actually, the department is continuing to enhance its professional status with advanced training through the Michigan Firefighters Training Council. In February of this year, as most of you know, with the department's 2 ambulances unreliable and in need of repair, a private ambulance service was contracted to handle EMS service at no charge to the city. The city and the fire department share a common commitment to the safety of our residents and a deep sense of community involvement, as further evidenced by the many projects the department takes part in every year, including fundraising for the Good Fellows, cleaning up Veterans Memorial Park, and watering the plants on Joseph Campo. In addition, the department takes seriously its obligation to the next generation, giving many school tours of the fire station, presenting a career day at local schools, and allowing high school students to shadow firefighters as part of their senior year project. Our police and firefighters not only keep us safe, but they are strong threads binding and stabilizing our community. There have been many changes in the city clerk's department over the last month. To increase efficiency and opportunities for cross-training, the clerk's office recently moved and now shares office space with the Treasury Department. Since the clerk's retirement, August Richlag has joined us as Deputy City Clerk. Augie brings with him extensive election administrative experience, so the August 6th primary is on track and the department is moving forward. New printers have modernized the city's ability to provide AV ballots at the window. Officials from the Secretary of State's office have reviewed the department's processes and brought it up to speed on all the most recent changes and updates. You'll see modernized signage, postings, and a handful of new processes for the November general election, just in time for next year's gubernatorial election cycle. In addition, in recent weeks, the clerk's office has made significant progress in issuing business licenses. The backlog's being worked through. Brainstorming with acting city manager Tertzeg have produced excellent ideas on how to make this process more efficient in the future, and the key element here is training, and the department is learning to use the systems we have in place more efficiently every day. The department has also been working with the city manager's office on the citywide record retention project. The clerk's office is responsible for a significant number of paper records. In the past, those records have often been scattered and difficult or impossible to locate. We're now deeply engaged in a major effort to ensure that important documents are protected and accessible. Although the clerk's office now operates on a part-time basis, personnel are staying late and working extra hours to modernize and professionalize. The result should be more efficiency and effectiveness and better service in the clerk's office. The Department of Public Services, under Director Steve Shea, has had a busy year, also increasing efficiency and revenues through shifts in personnel, revised procedures, and rewritten ordinances. The department's begun to implement its capital investment improvement plan, including the installation of non-motorized routes and the replacement of hazardous sidewalks, which have resulted in many trip and fall lawsuits against the city over the years. After the initial rollout of the sidewalk program resulted in some serious questions about tree removal, the city stepped back to revise and refine the program as well as to ensure that removed trees will be replaced with species that are appropriate and safe for a close urban environment like ours. And I think the program is now moving forward smoothly and effectively. In another piece of the capital improvement plan, DPS is in the process of conducting pavement, surface, and evaluation ratings on our streets. This will determine what streets are prioritized for the next round of improvements and for resurfacing. Of particular concern for many years has been Conan Avenue, a county road, and we're renewing our efforts to move this road from number 40-something on the list to the top of the county's priority list. And I thank everyone who's been involved in that process. It's taken a lot of pressure, and still is taking a lot of pressure. Along with the immediate issue of repairing our streets, we face the decades-old problem of our outdated sewer system and the resulting basement flooding that's plagued the city since at least the 1950s. Just a couple of years ago, this ongoing problem cost each one of you hundreds of dollars in a class action lawsuit brought against the city by a group of your neighbors. It's imperative that the city address this costly problem at long last. Toward that end, the City of Hamtramck and Hennessy Engineers was awarded a $1 million grant to perform a sewer study that will help us strategize for and seek funding to implement a phased solution to this problem. That's my basement. If my husband's cringing there in the front row, it's because the picture is of our flooded basement. You may also have noticed that DTE and Mishkan are completing the final phase of gas main and service line replacement. This process has been disruptive for many of you, I know, so we're all happy to see those holes in the ground filled in and the sidewalks and streets being repaired properly and professionally. DPS continues to look for ways to become more efficient and bring in the revenue that's owed our city. In May, a month-long amnesty program gave residents the opportunity to pay up old water bills without penalty. As that offer drew to a close, the department has instituted much stricter water bill collection and enforcement policies, which should not only mean that the city is not funding the water use of residents and businesses with no hope of reimbursement, but also that water customers are incentivized to pay their bills before they become insurmountable. On the same cost savings note, the installation of high-performance lighting on Joseph Campo and Kniff has resulted in savings of approximately $20,000 a year. Now there's one more DPS issue I want to touch on, and it's one we all see every day. If you're like me, you've been watching the weeds grow over your own head on city-owned lots. It's not so far from me, but it's not so high for me, but and on some foreclosure properties. There's currently no money authorized by the emergency manager to be spent on cutting city lots. I hope that situation will change. It may have already changed over the last couple of days, but not that I know of. The acting city manager, DPS director, and staff, and assistant to the emergency manager are currently working together to try to come up with the best strategy to make sure that the abandoned or foreclosed properties are maintained. That could mean cutting the weeds ourselves, which expenditure only the EM can approve, and charging back the owner, whether it be an individual, a bank, or Wayne County. However, it's only very rarely that we would realize a reimbursement of that expense, especially as liens are removed in the second round of tax foreclosure auctions. Tickets could be issued after a fair warning period, but as owners walk away from the property, they walk away from the financial obligations as well, and that doesn't get the weeds cut. So look for the outcome of these discussions from the Department of Public Services and the City Manager's Office. The sooner the better. The health of a city is measured by more than its balance sheet. Part of the long-term strategy for Hamtramck's economic recovery must include decisions that bolster the quality of life in our neighborhoods. The quality of our downtown is the responsibility of the Downtown Development Authority. The DDA continues to administer the Hamtramck Facade Grant Program, funded through community development block grant dollars allocated by the Community and Economic Development Department and approved by Council. In the last year, local business and property owners received $70,500 worth of architectural design services, and $45,000 has been set aside for construction services to restore their facades to the original condition. Flavor Restaurant, Bromberg Translations, and the building at 2321 Kniff were the recipients of the grants over the past year. Another $52,500 has been earmarked for design and reconstruction and construction of new facades at Jomir Grocery, Cafe 1923, and Degana Investment. The DDA, in conjunction with the city's Community and Economic Development Department, has also initiated a citywide sign grant. The sign grant is also funded via CDBG dollars. The grant allows for money to be used for 75% of sign costs, up to $1,450, with the grantee matching the final 25%. It's a good deal. The grant also provides up to $200 for sign design and drawing costs. Sign grants have been allocated for halal live chicken, Rock City pies, and sticks, strings, and other things. Sticks, strings, and other things, by the way, a music, entertainment, and music lesson storefront on Florian near Joseph Campo is the city's first home-funded second-story rehab fund applicant, and recently had plans approved by the city and the State Historical Preservation Office for renovation of 2 apartments above the storefront. The DDA teamed up with the Beautification Commission, the Hamtramck Fire Department, Reverend Sharon Buttry, and Assistant City Manager, or now Assistant to the Emergency Manager, Kathleen Angerer, to provide and plant 100 bags of cedar chips, 172 hostas, and 4 flats of petunias in the planter boxes along Joseph Campo, around City Hall, and at all Hamtramck welcome signs. The DDA provided the funding and some limited manpower, but the Beautification Commission, the Hamtramck the Hamtramck resident volunteers, Kathleen Angerer, and the Detroit Chinese Christian and Missionary Alliance Church Youth Group through Reverend Buttry did all the planting. Ms. Angerer negotiated an outstanding price for all the materials, and the fire department continues to water the new plants. In conjunction with the planting, the DDA has also paid for weeding and clearing of the tree grates along Joseph Campo side streets, as well as the parking lot behind the former Shoppers World. Due to funding issues, the DDA is planning to work with the Beautification Commission and volunteers to maintain those areas. This month, there are also plans to supplement the planter boxes and flower gardens throughout the city with plants and labor donated by local residents, the DDA board, and the Beautification Commission, which has recently been revitalized and has almost, I think, completely new membership. If you enjoy the holiday lights on the street poles along Joseph Campo every year, you also have the DDA to thank. The DDA pays for the repair of most of the damaged light poles and GFIs, working with the city to replace all missing or damaged lights and poles along Joseph Campo. In conjunction with the Community and Economic Development Department, the DDA hosts quarterly merchants meetings of the city's business and property owners. The events take place at and/or are catered by local Hamtramck establishments, so you always know the food is good. Recent hosts have included Aladdin Sweets and Cafe, People's Community Services, Detroit Zen Center, Planet Ant Theater, and Courage Coffee. Additional catering has been provided by Schrodeck's Quality Sausage, Bosnian Specialties, and Sarah's Turkish Specialties, who we hope will someday be opening a store or a restaurant. The events help bring customers to local Hamtramck businesses, and each meeting features presentations on valuable services to small businesses and property owners. Merchant meetings are provided at no cost to the attendees, and attendance and participation is always growing. For the last several years, the DDA has participated in the Michigan Main Streets program at the associate level and will apply this year for acceptance into the Main Street Select level. The Main Street program was developed by the National Trust for Historic Preservation as a 4-point approach to revitalize historic downtowns like ours through historic preservation and grassroots economic development. As a member of the Main Street Select level, downtown Hamtramck will be entitled to thousands of dollars in training, consultation, and design services provided by MISHDA, the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. These services will be provided at no cost to the city, our taxpayers, or the DDA. The DDA also continues to be integral to the Hamtramck Labor Day Festival, along with the dedicated volunteers, some of whom are here, without which the festival would not have been able to continue. The DDA has provided liquor and raffle licenses for the festival for the past 4 years. And while the DDA hasn't been the hosting entity since 2011, Executive Director Darren Groh continues to sit on the festival committee and assisted in making 2012 festival a financial success. And those of you involved in that festival committee, if you would please wave your hands real high so we can all thank you. Yeah, you're already taking our names and recruiting us. Now, the DDA also partnered with the Seeds marketing firm and the Hamtramck School Board in 2011 to create a branding program for downtown, the school district, and eventually it's hoped the entire city. In August of 2011, the DDA purchased 20 banners for the light poles with the new branding slogan, "Hamtown, you fit in here." The slogan's meant to emphasize our diversity and to encourage everyone to feel at home here in Hamtramck. As an extension of the program, the DDA now offers business owners the opportunity to purchase banners with the slogan and their business photo and or their logo. In the past year, Pratt Law Firm, Amici's Pizza, Record Graveyard, Yurkevich and Wilk Funeral Home, and the Polish Art Center have all become sponsors. Often working in cooperation with the DDA, as you've heard in my remarks, is the Department of Community and Economic Development, and as you know, the director of that department is here with us, Jason. Among all the other work that the Community and Economic Development Department is responsible for, it has played a historic role in bringing to a close the nation's longest-running housing discrimination lawsuit, Sarah Garrett versus the City of Hamtramck, known to most of us as R31. We are seeing the last days, I know I say this every year, but really, we are seeing the last days of this over 40-year-old case. The CED department's wrapping up the administration of the city's approximately $18 million neighborhood stabilization grant, that's NSP2, the largest grant the city's ever received. Those funds have helped us meet many of the settlement requirements, allowing us to build or rehabilitate in the last year 52 homes, in addition to those completed in the last several years. Finally, in addition, this grant has allowed us to remove over 100 dangerous blighted structures. 16 of the remaining 19 homes to be built out of the original 200 and that are to be built and offered to plaintiffs and their families are now either under construction or under contract, thanks to a $3.2 million U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Home Fund award through Wayne County. The remaining 3 homes will be developed by the city in cooperation with Reverend Jordan and the Corinthian Baptist Church and the Community Development Corporation, utilizing funds from the city's Housing Development Fund. They should be completed within the year. These homes have brought new homeowners to our city, helped transform our neighborhoods, and most importantly, helped right a historic wrong. And you can see from just what I've said here that this has been a long process that's involved a lot of players to make it happen. A lot of money and a lot of funding sources, but also a lot of different organizations have had to come together to make this, to fulfill these requirements. It's been a long and difficult process, and we're very glad to see the end in sight. The Honorable Damon Keith, who's presided over this case from its beginning, has been so encouraged by the city's progress that he's signed an order allowing the city to sell city-owned residential property. Since the early lifting of this long-standing prohibition, you may remember that in the past we weren't allowed to sell those city-owned lots. So since that early lifting, the CED department's been working with Zachary Associates, a Midtown Detroit real estate development expert, to create a strategy for redeveloping those properties. This comprehensive plan will include provisions for setting aside property for neighborhood green space and pocket parks, urban gardens and farms, as well as for selling and redeveloping lots with new housing. The city owns approximately 400 total residential parcels, and each lot has the opportunity to generate up to $3,000 a year in taxes for the city's general fund. We've got to really do this smart. This is the only time in our history we'll have 400 residential lots to dispose of. So we've got to be very careful about how we strategize where those lots go and what and how they're distributed and used for the city. This is a great opportunity for us. The CED department is also working hard to eliminate blight in city neighborhoods. $300,000 in Neighborhood Stabilization Program NSP3 funds through Wayne County are being used to deconstruct 6 dangerous blighted structures. In the deconstruction process, the original construction and decorative materials like the wood floors and the moldings and the fixtures are salvaged for reuse. 2 of the deconstruction, that's good for our landfills and good for our history. 2 of the deconstruction projects will result in the creation of a green space or park along Carpenter Street across from Frontier Academy, the former Greater Detroit General Hospital. The CED department just wrapped up the administration of 2 EPA grants, brownfield assessment grants totaling $400,000. Funds were used to position and market Hamtramck properties for redevelopment. Over 40 Phase 1, Phase 2 site assessments, as well as baseline environmental assessments, due care plans, and lead and asbestos surveys were completed, promoting residential, commercial, and industrial property throughout the city. And those of you who have worked with older properties know that often there's an enormous obstacle because of lead, because of other contaminants, and because of asbestos that really can cripple redevelopment projects, even as simple as redoing, as buying an old home and rehabbing it. So those funds are really needed by our residents if we want to rehabilitate our older buildings here in Hamtramck. The CED department also applied for, there's always grants coming in the CED department, that's why you can't, it's hard to keep them straight. Applied for and received a $1 million revolving loan fund grant as seed money to create a fund to assess and clean up any environmental issues that could provide challenges to redevelopment throughout the city. And the city received $300,000 from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority to renovate space and attract more residents to the city's commercial areas. The CED department is administering several CDBG projects, including facade improvements, housing rehab, park improvements, code enforcement, and the creation of a new business startup and expansion grant program that already has a waiting list. In addition, this year the city will make its final HUD Section 108 loan payment for the Joseph Campos Streetscape project, which will free up $80,000 to be spent on other projects benefiting the city as we move forward. There's a lot going on in that department. The CD department and the city manager's office are working together to make dramatic improvements to Veterans Park, and goodness knows it needs it, throughout the summer. General Motors and Hamtramck High School interns are repairing tennis courts, removing graffiti, and painting buildings throughout the park, weeding and removing brush, and relocating and refurbishing the neglected playground equipment to create a playscape that's more visible and accessible to families. Many volunteers, including the Hamtramck Fire Department and members of the business community, are working to improve the park by completing the projects ranging from removing litter and weeds to using heavy machinery to move the playground equipment. One long-awaited improvement is the addition of a cricket pitch, which will add greatly to the diversity of sports facilities offered throughout the city. The CED department has also submitted a grant application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund with the goal of improving infrastructure throughout the park, as well as restoring the historic Negro League Baseball Stadium grandstand, which was recently added to the National Register of Historic Places. So we hope for good things happening in Betts Park. For many years now, the city's been working to enhance its bikeability and connect Hamtramck with the growing network of bike paths in the region. The CED department contracted with Living Lab Detroit, one of the county's most respected non-motorized transit consultants, to develop a comprehensive bike lane network for the city. The department expects to receive funding to install the entire network. We'll see if that happens next year. This effort goes hand in hand with the proliferation of community gardens. You can tell when I haven't had that much sleep and I can't say a 4-syllable word, of community gardens that have sprouted up all over the city. With our Hamtramck Farmers Market held every Monday in Polk Park, which features hyper-local produce, and hyper-local means that it was harvested that very afternoon, and crafts and cottage goods. It's also opened the door for entrepreneurs like the founders of Hamtramck, which reconditions and sells used bikes. The CED department has been working with Megan Elliott, a University of Michigan School of Sociology PhD student, through the university's Arts of Citizenship program to reestablish the city's Arts and Culture Commission and implement many of the recommendations presented in the city's new master plan. Several projects have been initiated and range from planning a Hamtramck Food Week, which celebrates the city's diversity and an amazing number of markets and food-related industries, working with artists to plan the Neighborhood Arts Festival, and reviewing the city's zoning ordinance in order to recommend changes. Among the most exciting art projects this year is Hamtramck's participation in the Detroit Institute of Art's Inside Out program, which brings high-quality reproductions of renowned works of art to public spaces. Hamtramck's host to several of these installations: outside Colonial Restaurant, Cafe 1923, Polish Market, City Hall, and there are, I think, 2 or 3 other places around town. The Hamtramck Art Collective headquarters, located in the city's former police department, is now fully operational. The CED department administered community development block grant funds once again to renovate the building with a new membrane roof, electrical, plumbing, and carpentry. Hatch recently installed a new heating, ventilation, and cooling system that was partially paid with CDBG funds and partially crowdfunded through Kickstarter. The gallery features frequent exhibits, and the individual artist studios are 100% occupied. Interior improvements are ongoing, with plans for a pottery studio, photography darkroom, and retail space. One room remains unchanged, however. One of the former jail cells, complete with historic graffiti and toilet and all the comforts of home, is still there. It's one of the most popular art exhibits in the building. Some of you may recognize it from your younger days. Hamtramck's business climate is also a priority for the Community and Economic Development Department. General Motors met with the city to discuss, just recently, a $20 million investment and expansion project. In addition to the innovative Chevy Volt, GM has announced that the new electric hybrid Cadillac will also be built at the Hamtramck Detroit Assembly Plant. Hamtramck Recycling LLC completed the demolition of a dangerous, blighted, and contaminated steel plant to build Hamtramck's first LEED certified and environmentally efficient commercial recycling plant. The approximately $8 million investment has resulted in 50 new jobs for city residents. The fire-damaged Hamtramck Creamery, some of you maybe remember that fire, I do. I think I've got some photos of it somewhere, has seen $650,000 in redevelopment as the new home for the Hamtramck Farmore Pharmacy and Medical Center, and resulted in 20 new jobs. The CED department worked with 2 doctors to redevelop the 43-unit Phoenix apartment building located on Kniff, just west of Conant, another building with a long history of blight and redevelopment and deterioration again. Many thought that 30,000 square foot building would have to be demolished after sitting vacant with fire damage and roof leaks for almost 4 years. But the finished product is a beautiful example of both preservation of a historic asset and as well as providing modern, efficient units at an affordable price. Several businesses are filling storefronts, or will be soon, throughout the city. Perkins Pickles, Maria Salsa, there's a new facility here, a production facility on Kniff, Mocha Cafe, the Conant Grocery Store at Edwin, Greenhouse Market, Kebab House, Hamtramck, Kniff, Coney Island, which just opened last week. I was just in there yesterday. L. George's Rock City Cafe, we're all looking forward to that. Cupcakin, we met Vanessa Gray, catered the mayoral forum a couple weeks ago. Already a strong part of the community. Flavor Restaurant, of course. Beignet and More, and Hammer and Cycle, and there are many more. They're in various stages of development. So despite some lingering empty storefronts that hurt our eyes every time we go past, the atmosphere and appetite for strong business, for small business in Hamtramck is strong, and it's growing stronger. In fact, The city was the co-sponsor of the first 8-week Hamtramck Build class, which trained 15 potential business owners in skills from business plan creation to financing and marketing, based on DHive's nationally recognized curriculum. They get a lot of good press. The first cohort, of which I was one, and Arif here was one, plans to open a variety of businesses ranging from restaurants to graphic design firms. On a related note, HPOP brought pop-up small businesses and art installations as well as outdoor entertainment to Joseph Campo for several days this spring. So the CED department worked with City Council to pass a new food truck ordinance, allowing these mobile vendors to operate in the city's commercial areas. Many reports project the food truck industry to grow by 300% over the next 2 years. Let's hope it grows by 300% in Hamtramck. And Hamtramck is one of the few communities to recognize this opportunity by allowing the trucks to add to the city's already exciting street scene by operating at almost any time, not just at organized events, as in a lot of other areas. And now, for some fantastic news on a project we've been working on since 2006. The Friends of Historical Hamtramck have finalized the acquisition of the building located at 9525 Joseph Campo, which was donated to the group for use as the new Hamtramck Historical Museum. You may have seen a lot of work going on in that building lately. The group is planning a soft opening in time for the 2013 Labor Day Festival, but renovations will have to be continuing. I can't praise highly enough the hard work of the Historical Commission and Friends of Historical Hamtramck as they've overcome every setback to put the myriad pieces in place that have made this possible. The museum will soon become a new Hamtramck landmark, a home for the many thousands of documents and artifacts the Commission's collected over the years, and a research center for the scholars and lay people who use them. A meeting place for the entire community to learn about and teach each other. A home base where individual visitors and student groups and the many tour groups who come here will get a deeper perspective on the Hamtramck story, past and present. It will be a point of pride for Hamtramckans wherever their lives may have taken them. And it is not just a depository for the remnants of Hamtramck's past. It is a physical symbol of the faith we all have in Hamtramck's future. The Friends of Historical Hamtramck also owns the PLE Post 1 on Holbrook. The Community and Economic Development Department has been working with the Friends to sell this building with all proceeds to be invested in the new museum site in accordance with the requirements of the grant that was used to purchase the post. The sale is nearly complete, and the new owner, a well-known architect, plans to move his office into the building. We're all really happy. So, but if you'd like to learn more about everything that the Community and Economic Development Department is doing, because this is a long list and I don't think it's everything, I invite you to visit www.develophamtramck.com and take a look and see what properties are out there and what opportunities are out there. So today, you've heard only a part of all the good things that are going on in Hamtramck. There's so much that I haven't been able to touch on in this short time. And there's so much that we don't know going forward. Most importantly, we don't know what decisions the emergency manager will make and how they'll change the city. Nothing lives without change. We change our world every day through our smallest actions and inactions. And that personal power to transform our community remains within us. It is what we are called upon to do as lovers and stewards of this little plot of earth we share. Because when the emergency manager is long gone, we will still be here, in this improbable little place we've all chosen to call home. This place that has called to us all. It's how we choose to act, how we choose to move forward together, that determines the future of this odd and dear city. I told you, Marge and Frank, you'd enjoy this.
Where was that taken at?
Hamtramck Festival. You gotta watch out, man. I got that camera with me everywhere. Any of you could be next. Nothing lives without constant change. Everything living grows and evolves, and Hamtramck needs all of us to guide that change, to move the city through difficult times toward the future we all want for ourselves and those who come after us. Pope John Paul II, soon to be Saint Kalavoitila, admonished us all, be not afraid. And we need to move bravely through the year ahead, as Hamtramckans have always done, bolstered by our shared commitment to our city and each other. I bet my next door neighbors don't know they were in this presentation either. It is, after all, why we all choose to be here. We're not afraid of the hard work ahead of us, because we are, after all, Hamtramckans. We've all seen hard times and woken up each morning to face the next day. At our best, we've sustained our neighbors with human kindness. We've carried each other. And tried to build a Hamtramck that can promise a hopeful future for the generations that will inherit our handiwork. The work we have now ahead of us is among the most challenging and most exciting the city has ever faced. We need to stick together. Let's not forget the joy we take in each other. Let's proudly be who we are. Kind, committed, hardworking, and joyful in the days ahead. Cheering each other on, holding each other steady, creating and recreating our community. Elected officials, department heads, union members, organizational leaders, community volunteers, young, old, newcomer, longtime resident. The city is you, and the city needs you and your neighbors. It needs your hard work, your patience, your imagination, and your goodwill. And it is those qualities, far more than the budget surplus, that create and sustain community. I thank you all for coming today, for showing your commitment to this dear place. I wish you and your family every good thing, and I hope that being here in Hamtramck is one of those blessings for you. Thank you.